Hi, my name is Candace Bize, and I want to share with you today a story that I've only shared with a select group of individuals up until this point, mainly very close friends and my family. In 1989, we went to the zoo for Father's Day. It was a beautiful day. We played with all the animals. The little petting zoo. We got to see the elephants. I even got to ride an elephant. It was fantastic. And then on the way home, we decided to stop and eat lunch instead of having lunch at the zoo because it's really expensive there. So we stopped and ate lunch at one of our favorite spots on the way home. And we got home probably about 1:30, 2 o'clock, somewhere around there. I remember I was very, very tired. I didn't want to go to bed though. And my dad was a workaholic. He always worked. I can remember when I was a kid, he worked all the time. I mean, he had a 9-to-5 job, but he worked for a 24-hour-a-day company. So if they needed him at 2 o'clock in the morning, he would go in. And sometimes he'd work like 18, 20-hour shifts. Sometimes he'd be gone for days at a time. And so when we came home and he saw the grass was a little long, he decided he had to cut it. And I begged him not to cut the grass, just to hang out. It was Father's Day. You know, he was not allowed to do any work. But he insisted, the workaholic that he is, and he started cutting the grass. And we had a pretty big yard, bigger than all of the other people. Our yard was 3 times the size of everyone else's in the neighborhood. And so when he cut the grass, he got on his riding lawnmower and he started going to town. Now, there's something you need to know about this little riding lawnmower we had. It had a boat seat mounted to it, the top of it, right on top of the engine. And it was just a regular little riding lawnmower. You put it in drive and you go with the steering wheel. It was the 80s, so I'm sure you can imagine. And this little seat did not have a seat belt. It was just a boat seat, just mounted up there, bolted up there. And I could sit there and ride along with him. I just kind of hold on and go. And this day, I begged him not to cut the grass. And so he insisted on cutting the grass, and he cut the grass. And I remember about 15 minutes into him cutting the grass, I was crying so much. And this was unlike me to cry this much over him cutting the grass or something like that. Although I was tired. He said, well, fine, you're not going to stop crying, I'm not going to stop cutting the grass, so I'm just going to let you ride with me. And for some reason, he was against it at first this day, letting me ride. But I got on and we made one full pass all the way around the entire 3 lots. And then our second line back, on our second trip back, we were the farthest we could be away from our house, and we hit an ant pile. And an ant pile in South Louisiana, sometimes they can get very big, very big, right after a rain. And so we hit this ant pile, and I bounced up off the seat, and I could not hold it on good enough. And I bounced off the seat, and I went flying, and I flew in front of the lawnmower. And instantly, as soon as I went up in the air, he turned off the engine of that lawnmower. But it was too late, because he had ran over my foot. And the last 2 or 3 licks of the blade, as the engine was actually finished, but the blade was still revolving, it caught my foot and it mangled my foot. And my dad was devastated. He grabbed me and he ran to the house and he got my mom, and my mom drove all the way to the hospital, and he sat in the back seat holding me. Towel was blood red. It was a white towel, but you couldn't see any more white of it. It was terrible. All I can remember is just saying, "Daddy, am I going to die?" the whole way there. He must have been hysterical. Because I can remember that. I was 5 years old at the time. It was right after I had just graduated from kindergarten. So it was pretty traumatic on me. And but that wasn't even the worst part, because you don't really remember pain. I don't remember how much it hurt. I know that I was scared. I can remember the fear. I was mortally scared for my life. And then when we got to the hospital, all they could think about is, oh, we're gonna have to cut the whole leg off. I remember they were saying, oh, we're gonna cut it off right above the knee. It was only my foot that had gotten mangled, but they didn't know how bad the damage was. And luckily I got a really good surgeon, and she noticed, and she said, well, her foot is split in half, and there's a little damage over here, and obviously there's some toes missing, but I think I can salvage this. And she operated for a very long time. And I wore a cast for months. I was starting first grade, and I had just gotten out of my cast at that time. I spent the entire summer just laying in a bed. I mean, no fun at all. It was just books and computer the whole summer. And My Little Ponies. But I spent the whole summer just laid up, and all I could think about is how much this hurts, and how miserable I am, because I'd look out the window. My bed was right in front of a window, and I'd lay in bed and look out the window and see all the kids playing, climbing the trees and riding their bikes, and I just wanted to be with them so bad. Well, as soon as I got my cast off and I was going into first grade, I kind of was in my back of my head all of, what had happened this whole summer, that whole traumatic experience I had went through, but I didn't realize how much it would affect the rest of my life. And as soon as the other kids started finding out, and not just my classmates, I had trouble from, my stepbrother, I had trouble from his friends, I had trouble from my cousins, just anybody that knew me. See, kids can be very, very cruel, and I had 3 toes, and the way it is, it's like this. This toe is missing, and this toe is missing, and these are kind of half toes, because they were fully there then, but the growth plates are all messed up in my foot, so they never really grew. They're still the size of a little kid's. But I was called Ninja Turtle, and so many names you cannot imagine, because kids are so cruel. And it started to really play on my conscience, and then my mom ended up leaving. And she always blames the fact that she left because my dad ran me over the Walmart, which was a complete freak accident. It's not like he did it intentionally. I cannot blame him at all. And still to this day, I don't blame him. I never have. But, the kids were so cruel. And I was called so many names. We'd get together for Christmas at my grandma's house, and all my cousins would be like, "Hey, Ninja Turtle, how are you doing?" And, I never wanted to go without shoes. I would go to the beach, and I'd be wearing those little beach shoes. And, I don't know what happened. One day, after being picked on and called so many names, I just decided, you know what? Enough's enough. Because this is me. This is who I am. This is who I am going to be for the rest of my life, whether they like it or not. And, I can remember when I was in high school, we used to paint. I was on the drama club, the Footlighters they called it, and we would have to paint on giant canvases for scenes for the plays, and we had to walk around barefoot. This was a requirement so that we didn't get any footprints or track any dirt on, on the stage. So I can remember walking around barefooted and somebody being like, "Oh my God, look at your foot!" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, because I didn't even register in my head what they could be referring to. Because at that point in my life, I was already past it. You see, and I could have easily just kept letting it, define me for my entire life. I could have kept being like, "Oh my God, what I've done if this didn't happen." I could constantly look at the other kids' feet and be like, "I wish I was like that." No, now I see, I'm unique. Okay, I have 8 toes. So what? Some people have 10 toes. Some people have 11 toes. And it doesn't really matter, because this is who I am. And that's what you need to realize. It doesn't matter who you are. You are unique, and you are you, and there's only one you. And I learned how to bring that in the rest of my life too. Now my art is unique, and everything I do is unique to me. I don't try to be anybody else. And that's what you need to think. How am I different? And how can I embrace that?